The galaxy was changing when we introduced the humans. We govern 132 recognized species, each with different needs, cultures, and economic structures. New races usually take decades to stabilize within the galactic compact. Humans took 5 circles. By the sixth, they were out-earning civilizations 10 times their age. That was a problem. The profit margins were impossible, the expansion rate abnormal. Entire sectors were reporting human-owned, corporations absorbing debt, property, and assets at a rate that triggered oversight protocols. So we began an investigation. We started where the numbers first spiked. A small planetary real estate firm. The first company claimed they would buy any home in any condition for credits. To us, that sounded absurd. There were only two ways to profit from desperation: exploitation or fraud. Ring ring. Hello, this is Jerry from Sol. How can I help you today? The human said. Greetings. I have missed payments from my loan company and need assistance, I said, lying. What should have been an easy trap. We had conducted operations like this before against unscrupulous corporations across multiple species. The pattern was always the same: create fear, offer urgency, extract value. I'm sorry to hear that. Are you seeking mortgage relief, or are you interested in selling your home? Jerry asked, his voice was steady and measured. We cannot pay our mortgage since I lost my job. We need to sell the house to cover our debts. He added a slight tremor, calibrated desperation. I understand. To properly assess the situation, I need a few details. First, the address of the property. I cannot evaluate it without knowing what I'm working with. Second, the remaining mortgage balance, including interest. That was information gathering, just like the others. Determine equity, measure vulnerability, calculate maximum extraction. The next step would usually involve identity confirmation and a washed contract. The address is 14563 Lovestone Loop, Station Covent, Sector 112291034. I own 160,000 credits at a 9.8% interest. The property was valued at over 600,000 credits. Trade expansion and new lane installations had increased regional demand. Even a modest offer would allow them an enormous margin. Please hold for a moment while I assess the property, Jerry said. The process unfolded with predictable precision, with inquiry, data collection, and valuation. I had seen the sequence dozens of times before. Soon would come the pressure clause, the expedited contract, the surrender of equity disguised as assistance. Moments later, Jerry spoke again. Excuse me, may I ask how far behind you are on your payments? 5 installments. They intend to foreclose unless I pay a 7,000 credit penalty in addition to the outstanding balance. That was the leverage point. Excessive fees followed by a forced restructuring, a common method among predatory lenders. Offer a temporary bridge loan, secure the property as collateral, seize it legally. I see, Jerry said. I'm going to ask a few personal questions, but I believe I can help you. Perfect. The pivot, the softened tone before the trap closes. Of course, I replied. It appears you have violation. The loan originated approximately 60 years ago. Are you above the age of 150? Yes. There was a pause. but not the kind I expected. Then you qualify for a galactic federal relief provision, Jerry said calmly. Your cradle world, COFA, subsidizes elderly homeowners, even if you're behind on payments. The program should prevent foreclosure. Frankly, I'm surprised your lender has not applied for it already. I would recommend pursuing that first. May I send you the official extra website link? For several seconds, I did not respond. This was not in the pattern. We had allocated 7,000 credits to impersonate his elder and spring the trap, yet the human was redirecting us toward a legal protection that would eliminate the need to sell at all. Where was the extraction? This had to be a trust-building maneuver to establish goodwill and secure long-term leverage. That was the only logical explanation. No, I simply want to sell the house. How much will you offer? I asked. I understand, Jerry replied. However, since you are over 150 cycles, I cannot proceed without your next of kin present, unless there's a structural or health issue beyond the missing payments. Elder asset transfers require additional oversight. I'm also concerned, he continued, that your lender failed to apply your federal relief eligibility. The protection is mandatory under galactic statute. You should not be facing foreclosure at all. He paused with only letting one breath out. You do not need to worry about the late fees. If necessary, my firm will ensure you receive proper compensation. I did not know how to respond. If this was the law, then the humans were protecting the elder. If it was manipulation, then it was extraordinarily elaborate. They would involve attorneys, court filings, regulatory bodies. That was expensive, unnecessarily expensive, unless the return was greater. Very well, I said, lowering my tone further. What must I do? We will coordinate a hearing with your station's legal office, Jerry said. Once it's scheduled, you will only need to appear. My firm will handle the rest. The situation was becoming inconveniently complex. Court involvement meant documentation. Documentation meant transparency. Transparency meant risk. Yet the humans are still expanding, still accumulating profit. Somewhere in this process was the extraction point, and I intended to find it. 2 subcycles later, the hearing was scheduled. I could not attend personally, so we compensated the elder an additional 2,000 credits to appear as instructed. We recorded the proceedings. If this was where the extraction occurred, we would see it. I waited outside the courthouse, posing as the elder's driver. Proceedings lasted just under 2 standard hours. When the volation returned, the outer eyelids were damp. Well, I asked, what was the verdict? The elder hesitated before answering. The court found that the lender had been applying improper interest adjustments for nearly 10 years. The penalties were unlawful because of the overcharges. The remaining balance was recalculated. J.C. Holmes petitioned to have the debt reviewed, and the judge nullified the late fees and suspended further collections. The 7,000 credit penalty erased, foreclosure halted. I stared at him. The humans paid the attorney. The elder continued. They did not charge me. That made no sense. Back at the office, I reviewed the recording. The human representative presented documentation with calm precision, payment histories, statute citations, eligibility filings that the lender had ignored. Within 90 minutes, the court determined that the mortgage company had violated federal relief provisions. Then the humans filed a border action under galactic consumer protection statutes. I ran the numbers again with consultation time, legal fees, and administrative filings. No acquisition, no property transfer, no direct revenue stream. They had spent thousands of credits to prevent a sale. Where was the profit? I continued tracking the case long after the hearing concluded. Within weeks, the mortgage firm operating on Convent Station was formally charged with fraud. Federal regulators froze their accounts, civil claims multiplied, assets were seized pending restitution. And that was when the humans moved. For a subsidiary, they purchased the company's distressed legal debt portfolio for 18% of its original value. I reviewed the transaction twice to ensure there was no error. By nullifying unlawful interest, halting foreclosures, and triggering regulatory action, they had collapsed the market value of the lender's assets. Then they acquired those assets at a fraction of their worth, performing loans, secured properties, and enforceable contracts transferred under court supervision. The humans had not exploited the vulnerable, they had exploited the corruption. My report did not include these conclusion signs. I was terminated for failing to identify the revenue mechanics early in the fiscal cycle. Within months, I lost my own house and transport vessel. My former employer ensured my credentials were flagged across interstellar registries. The only position available to me were custodial. Desperation is instructive. With my remaining credits, I contacted the humans. I submitted my investigative report and professional certifications. I expected silence. Instead, I received an offer quickly. Humans, it seemed, hired for competence. My first assignment was auditing the Galactic Oversight Bureau on Convent Station, the bureau I had worked for.